Los Angeles fires last month got within a couple of blocks of my house in Los Angeles. I was in New York when the fires broke out, and someone volunteered to go to my house and grab a few easily carried valuables. When I was asked what I wanted to save, I paused. There's nothing of dollar value in the house, so the question was, what do I value the most? That thought had never crossed my mind before. Now I had seconds to think about it. I asked for my oldest possession, my baseball glove, the one I use on my high school and college teams. Take a second now to think about what that might be for you. What would you ask for? What is the object that is most valuable to you? This week in the Washington Post, in a beautiful and profound piece of writing, Jonathan Capehart made my baseball glove feel like nothing compared to a shirt that created what he called, quote, one of the most powerful Black history moments I've ever encountered. He told the story of Juan Benn Jr, an intern at the Washington Post, coming to him for advice. Quote, the first thing I noticed when Juan knocked on my glass door was his crisp, tan, short-sleeve shirt with his name stitched into a patch on the chest, an old-school work shirt that struck me as appropriately Gen Z retro. Can we just take the words off the shirt so that we can see the shirt as we're reading this part of the story? Juan told me about his family in Tennessee and spoke with great reverence about his father. That he did so in the past tense led me to ask what had happened to him. Benn Sr. died in a car accident 10 years ago this month, when Benn Jr. was only 13 years old. As Juan told me about his father, my eyes focused more intently on his retro shirt. There was the brown stitching of Juan in the nameplate on the right. On the left, in brown stitching, was Knox County Schools Maintenance. What I thought was a kitschy vintage store find was in reality Benn Sr.'s work shirt. He had worked in maintenance for the Knox County school system for 37 years, and his son was telling me how he wears his father's clothes as a way of keeping him close. I got chills, the kind you get when you're bearing witness to something powerful. Sitting before me was the arc of one Black family's history. Juan Benn Sr. never went to college, his path not extending beyond eastern Tennessee, but his son was wearing his shirt throughout the offices of one of the nation's preeminent news organizations in Washington, D.C. When you're Black in elite spaces, you're always bringing your family and ancestors with you. Even if they are not physically with you, you feel them with you because their sacrifices are what propelled you to those spaces. Black people make history in this country every day through loud protests and massive marches, through powerful prose and stage performances that give voice to our experience. But more often than not, Black history is made more quietly by acts like wearing your late father's shirt to work. Joining us now is Jonathan Capehart, MSNBC host and associate editor of the Washington Post. Jonathan, thank you very much for being here tonight, and thank you so much for this story that really I urge everyone to read. It will send your mind into places where it might not otherwise go. What did you feel when writing about this?
Well, one, thank you very much, Lawrence, for reading so much of the piece and really getting to the heart of it. When I sat there and experienced it, I wrote, and it was true, I felt chills. And I was, ever since then, trying to figure out, I need to write about this. I want to write about this. When can I write about this? And it didn't occur to me until about a week ago that this is the perfect time. It's Black History Month. And then in doing my reporting, Lawrence, Juan Benn Sr. died in that car accident 10 years ago tomorrow. And so when I found that out, to me, it was the universe saying this story needs to be told. especially now when all sorts of efforts, going to, doing away with DEI and doing and looking down on people of color in whatever position that they're in, that Juan Benn Jr.'s story needed to be told. Because were it not for the mindset and the focus that is at the centerpiece of diversity, equity, inclusion, Juan Benn Jr. probably wouldn't have been inside the Washington Post. Were it not for DEI, decades earlier, I might not have been in the Washington Post. But because of the progress that this country has made and that is being eroded by this current administration, those efforts made it possible for me to be there, for Juan Jr. to knock on the door and say, hey, can I ask your advice? And to be in that moment and to focus on Juan Benn Sr.'s shirt and to realize the history that was sitting in that chair across from me, not just in his son, but in his work shirt, there in that space, it was just yet another reminder that when you are Black in elite spaces, the one thing I regret not putting in there, when you are Black in elite spaces, and more often than not, you are the only one in those spaces, or one of very few, which makes a moment like that with Juan Benn Jr. that much more powerful.
Jonathan, I'm so glad you got to expand on the piece here tonight. Jonathan Capehart, thank you for this beautiful and important reporting. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Lawrence.